The main topic of today's presentation is based on Jane Jacobs, the author of The Life and Death of Great American Cities. She's an American-Canadian journalist, author, and activist, best known of her work and influence on urban studies, sociology, and economics. She was born May 4th, 1916, and passed on April 25th, 2006.
So what is a city? What does a city need? What constitutes a city? And what makes up a city?
Well, Robert Moses says, cities are created by and for traffic. A city without traffic is a ghost town.
Well, we disagree.
A city is a large human settlement. It generally has extensive systems of housing, transportation, sanitation, utilities, land use, and communication.
When the master builder, Robert Moses, proposed a road through Greenwich Village in 1955, he met opposition from one particularly feisty local resident, Jane Jacobs, the author of The Death and Life of American Cities. Jacobs' book is an attack on orthodox modern city planning and city architectural design, looking into how cities actually work rather than how they should work, according to urban designers and planners. Jacobs effectively describes the real factors affecting cities and recommends strategies to enhance actual city performance.
A copy of Jane Jacobs' book was sent to Robert Moses, to which his response was, "I'm returning this book you sent me. Aside from the fact that it is intemperate and inaccurate, it is also a defamation. I'll call your attention, for example, to page 131. Sell this junk to someone else."
This was essentially the reason behind the clash between Jacobs and Roberts. Robert Moses was the master builder of New York, a designer of Lomax, which is the Lower Mid-Manhattan Express Highway in New York.
It was first put in place in the 1930s. The idea of Lomax was to run the length of Broome Street, therefore erasing most of what is now Soho and Little Italy. However, community opposition to the proposed highway connecting New Jersey and Brooklyn defeated the project, and the highway was never built.
Moses was an avatar of the early 20th century vision that the only salvation of cities was the large destruction of existing features, and Jane Jacobs, on the contrary, maintains that the future of cities rested on preserving exactly those qualities.
So looking at this form of urban design, it consequently promotes an inhabitable city. For example, number one was the demolition of houses. Just under 2,000 families were displaced and over 800 businesses brought down, bringing about conflict. The second thing that it brought about was crime, the lack of safety and surveillance from buildings.
Environment. So Lomax proposed an on-ramp of the bridge to cut through Washington Square Park. Moses, upon looking at the park, was convinced that the system it surely lacked was a 4-lane road piercing through the park. This meant that there would be less communal spaces, a larger carbon print, and a less sustainable city.
The main elements which were explored in Jane Jacobs' book, The Death and Life of American Cities, were number one, population density,
mixed uses,
old buildings,
short blocks. The elements and ideas of a city explained in terms of street sidewalks refer to number one, which is safety, through spontaneous protection with the eyes of both pedestrians and those watching from nearby buildings. Number two, through contact. For example, storekeepers enhance the social structure of sidewalk life, creating a social cohesion. And number three, protecting children and creating a safe environment for these children to play.
Levels of cities, namely from city to district to street. All of these three always relate with each other. Streets connect districts and districts connect cities.
Diversity through density, which meant that number one, districts serving more than one primary function to ensure presence of people using the same common facilities at different times. Number two, the blocks should be short to increase path options between points of departure and destinations, and therefore enhance social and as a result economic growth. And number 3, the age of buildings should be varying, accommodating different people and businesses which can afford different levels of rent. And number 4, the population and residence concentration should be present in order to promote city life.
City performance in terms of subsidizing dwellings, which were offered to those who cannot afford normal housing, and it is calculated based on income levels. Another attribute of city performance is attrition of automobiles because cars erode cities. And the last one becomes the implementation of wider and broader sideways, as this will decrease the tar road and decrease the need for cars to be used.
And from these, principles derived from the elements are 1. Permeability, which is the belief that roads and pedestrian routes should be extensively connected and intersect at multiple points, allowing people an abundance of choice and efficiency in how they navigate an urban environment. Mixed uses such as residential, commercial, institutional buildings in the same area strengthens the identity of a place and those that live around the place.
Density, the close proximity of the mixed-use buildings, strengthens the economy of a place and allows people to travel less distances to their daily needs. Natural surveillance. When the built environment is constructed at a human scale, with buildings bordering public spaces, people watch them in their daily activities, which create a safe urban environment where people will feel more welcome. The resulting active urban environment fosters a stronger community. Therefore, in conclusion, cities have the capability of providing something for everybody, only because and only when they are created by everybody.